Well, hello and welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show with me, Andrew Eborn, and I'm delighted that we have the creator and indeed creative director of one of the best brands ever. It's the wonderful Caroline Redman Lusher. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I am incredible. I tell you what, I'm so lucky because we have had loads of people from Rock Choir on the show already. We had Tom George came on at Christmas to talk about keeping the dream alive, which is what he did. And then at Easter time, we had the wonderful Dave Easter to roar at us with Katy Perry. So to have you now is a delight.
Oh, thanks for having me. Well, of course, I've had a baby, so I've been juggling a newborn all the way through lockdown and Rock Choir as well. So time has not been hugely available for me, but of course the team, like Tom and Dave, they're amazing. So the team has done an incredible job while I've been dealing with Little Hamilton.
Well,
so I'm very lucky.
I'll tell you what, when I saw that, the best production by far of 2020 was indeed Hamilton.
He's good. He came along in the heat wave in August. And I worked right up until that C-section and carried on working afterwards because, of course, the pandemic's hit every business so hard, hasn't it? And I couldn't allow my team to be working so hard without my involvement in some way or support. So I did get back to work quite quickly and project managed that Christmas single, Keeping the Dream Alive, that Tom talked to you about. And then after that went out, I crashed and I can't do it. I've got a baby. So I realised it's tough trying to be a working mum.
It changes your life forever having a little one, and you have those glorious moments. Does little Hamilton sleep?
He's not. It's not too bad. He's got a cold at the moment, so he keeps waking up with his dummy trying to breathe and can't. So we're trying to take the dummy out without him realising so he can breathe. But you know, he went to the crash for the very first time and came back with a cold.
That's you do. I tell you what, Caroline, you go to these creches, you get a badge and a bug on your first time.
They loved him, and he was great. He was really great with everyone. But yeah, there it was, and I was warned. As soon as he interacts with anyone, he'll come back with a cold. And there
they have to. They used to have these little measles parties and things like that, didn't they? So yeah. All of those sort of things.
Can't wait.
Stuff. I know it's a chicken pox and that sort of stuff. Anyway, yeah. It's absolute delight. And 2020 was an extraordinary year all round, wasn't it?
I think the nation can look back, and of course there's sadness, but I think we can be very proud of ourselves. We got through it. We're still getting through it, obviously, but I think that the courage and the kindness that has been shown by so many people really showed us at our best. And I can only think that the way forwards is upwards for us all. The businesses need to get back. The support's been there the whole time, I think, the feeling I have, but we all just need to get back now and move forwards and away from this.
Yeah.
And it's certainly huge. What a shock.
Yeah.
There's all that.
I mean, nothing unites us more than a common enemy, and the common enemy was the virus, and I think that sort of stuff. But talking about getting together, there's something about huge crowds and doing stuff together, which is just takes you to a different level, doesn't it?
I think everybody wants to be part of something, and you can see it at football matches. Well, I say mostly men. Forgive the women who love the football, but when I've been to a football match and I've seen men and they're chanting together and singing together, and they've got their community. It's all set up, and you see that in other environments. And choirs, of course, are hugely popular for that. They belong to something, and Rock Choir has become such a well-known brand. Dare I say a household name? We were featured in the script on Coronation Street last year, and I said, there it is. There it is.
But that's what you want. You want these accolades around the world. You're right. But you're right pointing out about football, which is mainly men. Rock Choir historically has been mainly women, even though I've had with Tom and Dave on the show.
Yeah.
What's the percentage so far?
Well, I'd say probably 95% are women. Now, I didn't intend for that to happen. That's just what's happened. It could be the choice of songs. It could just be the sense of freedom that someone gets from singing, and a woman is much more likely to want to experience that. Also, the social life is huge with Rock Choir. So everyone's getting together. They go off on little holidays together. They start reading groups. There's all sorts of social aspects to rock choir, but the men who are in it absolutely love it because they are the minority. They get all the attention. And I know a lot of either divorced or single men in rock choir who absolutely love it. And there have been lots of weddings.
Oh, have you had rock choir weddings? Oh, brilliant.
We've had lots of rock choir weddings, and I get the letter, I get the invite to the wedding, and it's really fantastic.
So you're the Cilla Black of the choir community.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, on the other weddings, who's been married to whom? Give me a couple.
Well, do you know, actually, she's retired now, but our office manager, Linda, she married a chap in the Basingstoke choir, and that was all a big, fantastic moment. Then there's another couple who were meant to get married last year in October, and I can't think where they were. I think it was up north, and I was invited, but of course it didn't happen because of lockdown. And we've had a rock choir baby from two that met in rock choir. So it's there, and it's not meant to be a dating site, but why not?
But if there's that common interest, and what I love about your philosophy is that anybody can join. There's no audition. You don't have to be able to read music. It's all about the love, if you like, of performing together.
It seems so simple to the outside, but it was the first of its kind at the time, and I knew there wasn't anything else happening. And not being able to read music and not having any confidence with singing, it was where I was with my A-level students. I used to be an A-level teacher, and performing arts, the 3 art forms are drama, dance, music, and I was given the music students who didn't want to do music. They just wanted to concentrate on drama and dance, and I had to find a way of pushing them through and passing the music module. So I created what became a choir, 16 of them around the grand piano in the theatre foyer, and I chose pop songs that I used to sing as a lounge singer up in London, wrote them into very simple 3-part harmony, taught by rote. So I sang a phrase, they sang it back, they learnt it that way. And then we established a performance, a gentle routine that would go with that song, and presented it. And now they all were able to pass, but they didn't have to read music and they didn't have to have any experience. So I took that concept with me and then started to research what other aspects of group singing and the sociology of choirs can I bring into something very new and introduce to the world using contemporary music, not classical. And that was the beginning of it. And my mum called it rock choir, and it stuck.
Oh, so your mum did. So it's all down to your mum. What made her call it the rock choir?
Well, we were sitting in a cafe, and I put a poster up saying "Singers Wanted," and I said we've got to have a name, we've got to have something that's strong, something that's very simple. And she was drinking her tea, and my mum's very quiet. She doesn't. My dad and I are very similar, very talkative. Mum's very quiet. She just said rock choir, and I went, there it is.
I love it. Well, I hope she gets all the royalties every time you use it.
Yeah. And then of course the logo was made.
Who did the logo?
Sorry?
Who did the logo?
Oh, it was my best friend's son did it right at the beginning. It was all very local, very
keep it all to the family. It's brilliant.
It's all organic at the beginning, yeah. And it just took off. So Farnham was the first rehearsal because that's where I lived. And what was interesting on a more serious note, though, was those students, those 16 to 18-year-olds, they significantly benefited from the choir that I ran, and I didn't understand why. And my colleagues would say their grades are going up, and their parents on Parents' Evening would say they are different people. They are lovely, they are kind, they're confident. It's something you're doing. And I had no idea. I just said, maybe it's some magical thing that happens when you bring people together for singing. But of course, 16 years on in rock choir, and I now understand what the brain is doing, and I have introduced so many more factors into rock choir to allow our members to benefit the most extraordinary life-changing experience by being with us. So we provide them with a platform, they stand on that platform and sing, and then their lives change. And it's very caring, very genuine approach to British public, basically, and everyone that I take on has to be like-minded, otherwise it won't work. So I have minded.
Are you just saying give it a go, just go for it, or
no? The musicians who deliver my repertoire, who deliver the ethos, who deliver the brand in 400 communities around the UK, they have to make it. They have to understand it's about the rock choir member, not about themselves. Because I need performers, musicians, teachers, I need people to be very, very good at what they do to be able to deliver it, because it's very complicated. It's made easy for the members, but complicated for the teacher at the front. But they have to be like-minded, as in they can't be a diva. They can't be wanting the limelight themselves. You know, you would have seen with Dave and Tom that they're just very lovely, gentle, but passionate people who want to make a difference using music. And those are the people that are attracted to being part of Rock Choir.
You know, and I've certainly seen it in all of your social media, the fantastic community that you get, and just the love that oozes out of every pore when people are singing together.
Well, it creates a sense of confidence and happiness. And then everybody who sees another member, it's almost like that's the world that Rock Choir has created. And therefore we are all going to behave in a certain way, hopefully, where there's a silent code that you look after one another. And yeah, there's the odd member who wants to maybe fight that, and they'll throw a bomb in on social media and say something that perhaps isn't so nice, and then you see all the other members descend. This is Rock Choir. You can't behave like that. You know, I mean, nobody's forcing anyone to be in Rock Choir or behave in a certain way. It's just it's a very joyous place to be, and people from all walks of life come into it, and can, because they don't have to read music and they don't have to have the experience, but they then start to feel better. They just, whatever starting point they're at, whether it's medical, you know, health, or they're lonely, or they've just lost their loved one, or something's happened, they come in and you start to see them improving, and they go home in a better place, allowing them to deal with their personal problems in a much more positive way, because they've just been to a Rock Choir session. And the group singing itself releases endocannabinoids into the brain, which is a high, natural high. And the sociology of Rock Choir, they've got all the support and friendship they could need in a busy diary. So suddenly their life is very different, and they can cope with what comes along. To all of us, we all get hit by something at some point, but they can deal with it in a much better way because they've got the support and the joy behind them.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And there's been a couple of examples, wonderful examples, in addition to your own with Rock Choir, about the power of music. I mean, we had Paul Harvey, who was the chap who had suffering with dementia, and he's the composer who all of a sudden, this world where music sort of managed to connect everything, and he came out with the glorious compositions. He got a donation of £1 million towards dementia and that sort of stuff. And there was also that wonderful one, I don't know if you saw it, of Marta Saldana, who used to be a principal ballerina a few years ago, with Music to Awaken is the Spanish translation, or the translation from the Spanish. And she was a ballerina who was locked in this world of dementia and darkness and everything else. And they put the headphones on of the Swan Lake, the bit that she used to dance to. And all of a sudden you can see her whole body woke up, and she started doing the gestures with her arms, and it brought tears to my eyes. The power of music, because you're involved looking at that sort of stuff. You're involved with all sorts of glorious charities, as you and I cross paths on a lot of these things, like Nordorf Robbins, where you're encouraging people to work through therapy, through music, because it opens up everything. It's the great unifier, isn't it?
It is. And actually, Alzheimer's and dementia, that disease doesn't tend to attack the musical memory part of the brain. So the musical memories that these people have are left intact. So when you do play a song that they know, a song from their past, they immediately come alive, and their behavior and their emotions are dramatically affected, which is why we see this suddenly, that person lightens up, brightens up, and they can respond in some way. Highly emotional. But if you think of the impact that has on dementia and Alzheimer's, and then so many other benefits, asthma sufferers, somebody who, I mean, grief, you know, all these things are supported and improved by music.
No, absolutely. Well, I heard another one of your wonderful Rockies, as you call them, talking about how they were suffering with breathing difficulties, and their doctor actually recommended singing as part of that therapy.
Well, some GPs are now referring patients, informally referring them to Rock Choir,
I love the idea that Caroline is that scribble on the prescription. That would be brilliant.
Go to Caroline. She'll sort you.
Caroline
do you know,
cares, absolutely.
but do you know what I think? And a lot of other business owners who watch this will understand that when it's your life and soul that's created something that so many people are enjoying, it's so personal and really difficult on challenging on the other side of it to let it go and let other people get involved. But I mean, what better job than to wake up every day knowing that all the skills that I've ever learned and all the experience I've ever had as a professional musician now can change the lives for the better of the British public. I mean, it's the best job in the world.
Oh, no, it's fantastic. Well, before you mentioned about Farnham, you brought up in Birmingham. A wonderful Brummie accent. Tell me about those days.
Well, my father was flying out of Birmingham Airport, and my family moved there when I was very little, a baby. So my first 20 years, I'd started at university at 18, but my first 20 years was based in Knowle, near the NEC. So when I go back to the NEC, I love that. But I was extremely happy. I had a wonderful upbringing, very blessed, supportive parents, and a very good school, which sadly has now gone.
St Martin's.
St Martin's.
Yes, nice.
St Martin's Independent Day School for Girls.
Well, no, very good. And you said it very well, which must have helped you get the Christine Ducker Prize for scholarship, didn't it?
Yes, I won that at 11.
Yeah.
They were very good to me at that school, and I'm still in touch with a lot of the teachers now. I brought my drama, music, and French teachers to the London O2, gave them a VIP box, and during the show turned the spotlight on them, asked them to stand, and thanked them publicly for my education, because it led to rock choir. So that was a really fantastic moment.
Those moments, we talk about sort of inspiration at an early age. And I always say, show me a child to the age of 7, I'll show you the grown up, because it's those sort of influences where you're being encouraged by your family. You've got a fantastic school with one prim and proper, but it's that sort of stuff which is really encouraging, because you can be the best you can be with encouragement, can't you?
I absolutely. And there was never any doubt about. There were never any barriers. And I'm often asked, oh, you went to a girls' school. Were you know, how was their approach to the working world, the career women? I said, well, it never even came up. It was just a given that we could go and do what we wanted. But I was always very driven. I very much liked accomplishing. So I used to look forward to exams. I used to love getting the results. And I wasn't a grade A student at all. I got grade C at A level, but I was also working as a lounge singer at the time as well.
You were not just any old lounge singer. You sang, I'm down here in London, you sang at some of the best hotels. You were at the Dorchester and the Lanesborough, singing to VIPs, a lounge singer.
Well, when I started my lounge singing days, when I was only 15 up in Birmingham, and I lied about my age. I said I was 21, because I'm 6 foot, so I could get away with a lot back then. And I used to go up to a nightclub called Liberties that was on the Hagley Road. Do you know Liberties? Do you know it's an Indian restaurant now?
No, I love Indian restaurants as well, but Liberties was an iconic place.
Liberties was fantastic. And the Indian, we went back to do a performance with Toya up in Birmingham.
I charmed Toya, absolutely.
My team booked a hotel for all of us on the Hagley Road, and I thought, oh, memories. I'm going back to my patch, and it happened to be in the car park of Liberties, and I thought, oh, there's my nightclub, and they booked an Indian meal that night, and I thought, I can't believe it. And I walked in, and the Indian restaurant hadn't refurbed inside, so there was still a dance floor with tables on it, and I thought, wow, this is really taking me back to the days when I was lying.
Very kindly invited me up. She was given, I think they do a star on the street. And right. On whatever street it would be in Birmingham somewhere as well. So we went up to, and her and Jasper Carrot, I think, got at the same time as well. So I know that she's a wonderful character, but
it's fantastic.
And wonderfully inspirational. What she's done in lockdown together with her husband Robert is just hilarious. I don't know if you've seen their.
I haven't. Oh, we send the odd text here and there. Right. My sister saw her at an 80s night. She was performing, and I texted her saying, "Watch out, my sister and her girls are there. They'll be screaming for you tonight." And she was, yeah. Hey. But Birmingham, even though I've been in the South now for longer than I lived up in the Midlands, I still absolutely love the Midlands, and to have rock choir in Solihull and Dorridge, the village nearby, I'm so happy. And interestingly, if I'm going through a particularly stressful time with work, I walk around my old house and my old school to send me to sleep, to calm me down, because I had the happiest years there.
All those lessons you used to sleep through, is that right? That's how essentially. All the lessons you used to sleep through, is that right? But there is something wonderful about reminiscing about that sort of side, isn't it? Because you went to Salford University, wasn't it? How were those studying performance art? And what I particularly liked is you did a thesis on Annie Lennox and her wonderful stuff. That's got to be good. How'd you get away with doing a thesis on Annie Lennox?
Do you know what? Some of the other titles that my colleagues were choosing were outrageous. Well, there's some of them are very rude, and I couldn't possibly. But I just still love Annie Lennox and her voice and her style of writing. And I thought, well, if I'm going to spend 6 months working on something, I might as well choose her. And I was able to just analyse her writing from her days with the Eurythmics up until her Diva album, because her Diva album came out, and that's with Walking on Broken Glass in it, and Why, the song Why, that came out while I was at university. So that was a big moment. But Salford have got in touch recently and want me to go up and do some masterclasses and work with the students. And I got given a beautiful tour. It's all changed. We were stuck in some warehouse in some grotty part of Salford, and now it's stunning.
Oh no, I went up just when it was about to open, the whole media centre side, and it's massively changed.
Yeah.
But Lord, I remember you're right by the tram still, but then they have this sort of media city where they're doing lots of broadcasting.
Well, and actually media. I ended up a couple of times in the hotel there above the BBC building, looking across at Salford University Media Centre. I thought, wow, it's really glamorous. But I was taken back and shown around the whole music centre, and actually the warehouse that I used to have my lessons in is derelict now.
Oh, look, there's a pattern here, distraction wherever you go. This is the new side of you we don't see, One thing's turned into an Indian restaurant, the other thing's What were your big conclusions then, having studied Annie Lennox and her glorious way of composing? What were your big conclusions that you drew in your thesis?
Oh goodness, it was so long ago now. I think she centered a lot of her work around her vocal range. She's got a huge vocal range, and I'm often compared to her with my range. And I'll always choose an Annie Lennox song if I can get away with it, not on repeat, but and it's very, I wouldn't say acrobatic, but it's very rich. She can produce beautiful sounds from her low to her high, and also vocal harmonies, the layering of vocal harmonies, which totally inspired me with what I was doing, because I was writing vocal harmonies at university, inspired by her work, and that's what then carried on all the way through. So it's worth listening out for her, listening to those older songs.
Oh no,
just listening to that voice.
Her work is absolutely phenomenal. Have you met her? Have you shown her your thesis?
No, I don't even know. I remember getting it leather bound, because apparently that got you some points with your dissertation.
You get it well printed.
With gold writing, and there was an on-site place that you could have it done. But my eyes were always on London. I needed to get to London as soon as I got that degree. And I remember getting the result of the degree, and it was a 2-1, and I was so upset. Looking back, I'm really grateful I got 2-1, but I wanted a first, and I was a few points off getting a first, and I rang my father, pilot, Birmingham Airport, and he was with all the captains. He was having some big meeting, but they all knew that my call was going to come in during that meeting. And I called, and I was choking because I was so upset that I didn't get a first, and he thought I'd failed totally. And he was dealing with all these captains, this awkwardness that the daughter had just failed her degree. And no, I got a 2-1. Oh, I'm so devastated. And now I'm thinking, thank God I got a 2-1.
But it is devastating. And the whole thing about education and the grades and how it can affect you. I mean, you went into teaching, so you shared that sort of pressure, if you like, of having to mark people and realizing how devastating it can be. Why did you choose teaching?
Well, I was invited. I'd become the lounge singer in London, the daughter, and I positioned myself in London. And 4 years into it, my father came and saw me working. I think it was the Lanesborough, and it was the cigar bar in the Lanesborough.
No, well, a friend of mine is one of the people at the Lanesborough, so I know it well. I probably heard you sing, actually.
Well, it was the piano's in that far corner. So when you walk into the hotel, you turn left into the bar.
That's the
I was
one.
in the far corner, and there would be a sea of smoke. This is back when this between 95 and 99, and I ended up with asthma. I got asthma, and they would position chairs, high chairs, around the piano with a cigar bowl, and there would be men every night just sitting there smoking, and I would be singing. And my dad came to see me at the Lanesborough and just said to me, "We've got to get you out. We've got to get you out." And I was like, "No, I love it," because I'd go clubbing afterwards, and I'd be up till 6 in the morning.
Which clubs did you go to?
Well, Annabelle's. I went through a phase of going to somewhere on Leicester Square. I can't remember. It was easy to park, and I'd get in.
There was the
free.
Empire Leicester Square. They were bang in the middle, which is now a cinema.
Right. I think it was. I know that. I don't know if this was the name of it. But I always used to call it the Long Island Iced Tea Club.
Now that's how you remember your order.
But I think that's because they gave me one for free when I got there.
Oh, good. I'll tell you what I used to do. I used to live in the Temple. I started life as a barrister, and I got a scholarship to the bar, so I got a free flat in the Temple.
Wow.
But you never appreciated it as a kid. You just sort of take it for granted. But one of the joys I used to love was going to a club called Madame Jojo's. Which is brilliant. All the usual clubs that you mentioned, Annabelle's and Leicester Square. But Madame Jojo's was this drag place where people like Lily Savage used to perform and various other things. But everybody would sing. They'd come out and lip sync in those days. But the atmosphere was superb. And there was a real feel about London in that time, wasn't there?
What year was that then?
It's around the same time as you were singing in the late.
Okay.
So
okay.
That same sort
of you probably were there then.
Oh,
was Salvatore was the
That's the one. Yeah. No,
was the head barman.
Memories, you see. Nostalgia ain't what it used to be. That's what they say. But it's bringing that up where you get a wonderful feel, you get that vibe. You were teaching people. As a teacher, your father took you out of this smoky. It wasn't very, very smoky. I'm sure the smoke is still in those old clothes if you got them somewhere.
Yeah,
you never get it out. But working on that sort of basis and taking that journey with people, and it's those inspirational teachers. That's what we were talking about earlier with your early days at the wonderful school. If you can inspire people and have an effect on their life, that is such an accolade in itself, isn't it?
I do, and the old saying that if you could become a teacher because you can't do it for real, the career. I think the good teachers out there, the great teachers out there, are so instrumental in the future of the students and their approach to life. And there's a lot expected now of a teacher. It's not just standing in front of a class delivering and then marking afterwards. There's a lot of care that's needed, a lot of attention on these students. And when I started at Farnborough Sixth Form College, my dad got me out of, just told me. I always do my dad. My dad is really a big person in my life. And he said, come out of it. And I did. And I thought, what on earth am I going to do? Because music's always been my thing. I needed to contribute musically somehow. And I got a call from Farnborough saying, would I go in for an interview? They were looking for a performing arts teacher, and they'd heard that I was in the area and had professional experience, which is what they were after. So I went in and I said, I've never taught before. I don't know how to teach. And they said, don't worry, we're desperate. We'll get you through it. And
don't worry, we're desperate. Well, there's an accolade for you.
Yeah. And I just said, okay, all right then, let's do it. And I met these students and just fell in love. I fell in love with these students and their need to pass exams and their personal lives, everything would come into these lessons. And we would have such a great time. It was all the paperwork outside those lessons that started to get, I think the really good teachers, you don't want to, you do it because you want to be in front of the kids and work with the kids. You don't want to do all that paperwork.
Yeah. And the higher up the chain you go and managing 33,000 people, there's more admin involved in the stuff rather than the stuff that you're really passionate about. And it is interesting because Farnborough, first of all, I had a lot of history with Farnborough Sixth Form College as well, because I went to school at a place called Lord Wandsworth College.
Okay, yes.
Lord Wandsworth College in Lower Sutton.
Yes.
And I seem to remember at the time, and at that stage, it was single sex. So it was just the boys, and they used to get all the girls from Farnborough Sixth Form College and organise these discos together, where they'd force teenagers together The car crash waiting to happen. Teenagers together on a Saturday night. We used to have our sixth form discos with Farnborough sixth form.
Oh, there's about 4,000 students there now, from what I hear. Yeah, it's massive place, massive.
I'll tell you what, the days of our youth have changed. Indian restaurants, car parks, people. But there's something about Farnham and that sort of Farnborough and that sort of area. They attract all sorts of wonderful creative people as well, don't they?
Well, there's a university, the Creative Arts University in Farnham. So we often see some very colourful students walking around the Georgian buildings of this posho town, as I call it. But it's a lovely spot, and there's a lot of pilots as well, which is why my dad moved here, because you can get to Heathrow and Gatwick very quickly. And my sister was long haul British Airways, and my husband's a pilot. So Farnham is there's a lot of pilots here and a lot of creatives. And of course, you can get to the coast in an hour. And like I said, the airports are close. London, I can get Guildford to London, Waterloo in 35 minutes. Nice. So it's a great spot, but my heart is still
a quick walker. So
a quick,
no, it is. No, it's a great spot. You sell it really well. I hope you're on commission for Farnborough estate agents. It should be.
Well,
I love that.
Sorry, I was saying my heart is still in the Midlands. Oddly,
I was going to say it's a pull. It's a bit torn, isn't it? Because
when I start driving up the M40 and I get past the Warwick services, I start to go, oh, my hometown. I do. And when I come back from Birmingham, my husband, who was born and bred in Farnham, he said, I don't recognise you. You're talking like a Brummie. You're talking like a Brummie. I don't know who you are. And I just say, I love the accent. If I hear someone with a black country accent, I'll stop them and say, where are you from?
I have to say, it's very chameleon-like, isn't it? Because I went to university in Durham, so I want to go as far north as possible. And you do, your accent, it's not trying to take the mickey or anything, but your accent does change, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And if you're musically minded, you are naturally, even subconsciously, listening all the time, and you can easily start to bring in those little quirks that change the accent. But the Birmingham one, going back to the NEC arena, because we celebrated as rock choir, we brought 13,000 members together at the NEC, and I was so happy to be home. And I stood on that stage thinking, I've watched MC Hammer, Bros and Europe and Erasure on this stage.
Hey, no,
that shows my age.
No, but so we're roughly the same age, but there we are. But it's glorious, isn't it? And it's those moments that you really cherish. But it's always going back to your hometown. So your heart is in Birmingham, is that what you're saying?
My heart is definitely in the Midlands, but it is beautiful. I do recognise that I'm very, very lucky to have ended up. I followed my parents. My parents moved while I was in the final year at uni, and I moved to London to be the lounge singer. Then I moved to Farnham when my dad dragged me out. And then I've lived here ever since. Yeah.
Okay, but Farnham was the birthplace, as you say, teaching people, the birthplace of rock choir. What was that catalyst? But can you pinpoint and say, look, this is the moment? Because you had that little advert that you put out, and and the glorious moment. It's going to make a brilliant film. I'll talk to you about that another time. It's going to make a brilliant film, because you see all these moments where you put your chairs out. You're not quite sure. There's a little advert in the local shop saying, "Come along if you fancy singing." My mum's come up with a name. It's got. I'll design something later. I'll get somebody else's family involved. But you've got that moment where you put your advert out, and you're sitting there, you put out your 40 chairs, I think it was, and you must have thought there's going to be nobody knocking at the door.
It was exactly like that. And my dad and I, Captain Rock Choir, and I were standing there thinking, I've quit my job, I've borrowed money from him, what's going to happen? And then they just started to come in. They just started to filter in. They were all quite nervous. It was very quiet. And they all just sat down, and I was really nervous. I was thinking, right, I'm now teaching adults, and I'd managed to gain a higher and further education certificate while I was teaching A-level. So I knew what I was doing theoretically, but I had never taught above the age of 18. And I delivered "Oh Happy Day," and by the end, they were on their feet, cheering. Some were crying. It was very American movie.
Very American.
And I was cheering as well. And it literally, I don't even remember when I then created the Guildford, the Godalming, the other choirs. I mean, Farnham alone has 3 rehearsals a week just in one town, because we can't get everybody, 150 in each choir on average. So it just it was word of mouth. But there was a moment at the end of that academic year, because I follow the academic year, so September was the beginning. In June, July, we did our first performance, had to do it twice because there were so many people in rock choir. And I ran an extra kind of session, bring a friend session, to allow everyone to kind of summarize the year and talk about what we were going to do the following year. And there were so many people crammed into this huge hall. And I delivered a bit of a song that I was going to start the following academic year. And there was a queue. People were running to sign up because they could see that there would be limited places. And I couldn't believe it. It was a shock, but I'd never planned any of it. I didn't say, right, I'm going to get everyone to bring a friend because I want 80 people in this choir and this business will do this. To me, it wasn't a business. It was plan A. I'd realized that every single thing I'd ever achieved or experienced was leading to this mixing pot that became rock choir, because I was tapping into everything that I'd learned and wasn't just randomly starting something fresh. I'd worked on my career for years. I mean, I started actually at the piano when I was 14 professionally. And so I started young compared to a lot of people who start their career at 18 or maybe 21. So I had all that experience behind me, and I realized that it was all coming in to be able to deliver this new thing called rock choir.
But that's the script. I tell you, and you see this in movie time and time again. There's a movie out at the moment called Dream Horse, where and I thought of you whilst watching it. It was only released a couple of days ago, and I thought of you because there they were in this empty room with their chairs all laid out, and you had your 40 chairs, and everybody was late, and nobody comes in at all. And then I think you got about 70 people at that first one, didn't you? So it was that tear-jerking moment, and just to bring them all up on that sort of side. I mean, did you think when you launched, because you've now got what, 33,000 members?
Yeah, well, we have them, but of course not all of them have been able to use Zoom, so we now need to regroup and bring the Rockies back together in the room so that we can all now recover and move on together. So yeah, 33,000,
which is phenomenal. But did you when you started with your 70 people, did you think it was going to get this big?
Never. And it did get to the point where I was at maximum capacity in terms of time, in terms of delivering rehearsals. And my dad, there he is again, my dad said to me, right, you either stay where you are or you go big. Which is it going to be? And I said, well, and I'd received letters and emails from relatives of my members who lived elsewhere in the country saying, my sister has dramatically changed. Her life has changed since she joined your choir. Please, can you bring it to Hull? Or please, could you bring it to Hertfordshire or something? And I just thought, we're going to have to go big. But how do we do that? And I'd made a decision that I would never employ anyone as well, which went very. I had to turn my back on that decision quite soon.
It's the point I was making earlier, Caroline, as well, is that your passion for it was singing and getting people doing it. The bigger you get, the more admin there is involved. How do you deal with that?
Well, that's exactly what's happened, and it is textbook. And interesting, about 10 years into rock choir, my husband forced me to read a book about business, because I was just using gut instinct and just being sensible, really, always putting the members first. They're very precious. Their needs come first. I got after 10 years and I read this book, and it said, you will have found that you are now no longer doing the passionate thing that you love the most. You are probably doing the really awful stuff. And I thought, oh, textbook. Okay.
You didn't need to read that. You could have spoken to Andrew Eborn on the show. I would have told that to you. Your father drags you out of the ladies' room. I could have dragged you out of the admin side. I could have warned you.
But I needed it. I gave my choirs, Farnham, Guildford, Godalming, I gave them to Tom, who you've met.
Yes.
And he's absolutely superb. And there wouldn't have been anyone else more suitable to take my precious Rockies off me. But in that one moment, I was then not teaching. I was not singing so much. I wasn't with them on their journey. And looking back, that was a mistake. That was definitely a mistake. And my team now, some of them are in the same position where we're offering them alternative jobs in rock choir alongside their choirs. And they said, no, I'm not going to do what Caroline did. I'm not going to lose my Rockies.
Right.
So they'll keep maybe 2 choirs on instead of 8, and that will free them up to do the rest of the work that they want to do. But it's a really tough one. And I'm at a junction now where I've had a baby, we've had COVID, The team are superb. There's a wonderful woman called Stephanie Holiday, who I was so lucky to meet about 5 years ago. She came in to be financial director, but very quickly took the reins as managing director. And she has totally transformed my life, because she's taken on so much of that day to day that was weighing me down. And it allowed me to work towards having a baby, because of course there was no time. I was probably getting 3 hours sleep a night for years. And I was ready to drop, and she came in, we got her settled. It took a while to work out what my role was and what her role was, because of course I was used to knowing everything. So that was another textbook journey to go on, to allow someone else to have the authority and the command over that side of business. And she has single-handedly totally reinforced the foundations of Rock Choir, the business, to allow everything on top to flourish. So the creativity, the outpouring, the music is my part of the business, and she will deal with the employees, the status of the company, the financials, the team at HQ, everything. And she's just the most brilliant person I could have ever met, and I'm so lucky. I did take on somebody before her, and it just didn't work out, and I was accused of being too controlling, which I really had to, I don't think controlling in an aggressive way, but needing to know what's going on, because it's my baby. It's so personal.
But I get that, and it's very difficult when you create something. You've got a very clear vision, which obviously you have. You're the pioneer of these mass choirs, if you like, way before Gareth and other bits and pieces. You pioneer. It is your baby. You want to control the big mistake that people make when something gets too big is they dilute the brand, or they don't make sure, or you miss some things, or you don't have quality control in terms of how you do it, or you miss the ethos, you miss the basic sort of central beating heart, if you like. So you're right. It's not a bad thing to be controlling. What you're doing is managing the brand, but surrounding yourself with people who can help deliver your vision. Is that a fair summary?
That's exactly it. And I mean, anyone outside coming in, like Steph had to, she did such a great job learning what the brand was. I mean, we have our own vocabulary inside Rock Choir. You know, we talk our own language, and anyone new coming in, for example, at the moment we're about to start looking for somebody to come in to head up our pastoral team, because we care for the 80 musicians, and they need a lot of support, and we want to care for them. So we have this team, pastoral team. And the biggest problem is, how do you bring someone in who hasn't been with us for the last 16 years, who doesn't know the brand, who perhaps might be used to artist management, you know, used to managing creatives, but then perhaps isn't a musician. So I think Rock Choir is so unique and was built on such passion and care for people that it didn't follow the normal business growth or structure that other companies might have identified. And it just stands alone, and it needs unique individuals for it to work. So it's a challenging one, but at the moment the team, Steph and the senior manager, well, in fact everybody, I couldn't miss anyone out. They've been superb through lockdown, and the team, the leaders, the Rock Choir leaders, have stuck with us and have remained loyal and have grafted more than they've ever grafted before by delivering online. Really hard to deliver the Rock Choir session online when you're just looking at a screen like that. The poor guys, I felt so awful for them at times, but they really are passionate about Rock Choir. So it just works. But yeah, it's all about people.
Oh, no, it's totally about people. I mean, you say it's difficult online, and we're all zoomed, as they would say in Dad's Army. But you've managed to do it, and I've witnessed things where I've been in a big studio, and I say we had Tom in, and then we've done stuff on Zoom and this sort of way. You can do it if you connect in the right way, and it's about communicating with people. I mean, you had this wonderful thing about keep Britain singing, which I love as a sort of concept. Tell me about that. How did that come about?
Well, we decided we needed to contribute in some way as a business to the lockdown, to the pandemic, and a lot of people were raising money for the NHS. There was that big surge of kind of big events online and things for the NHS, and we wanted to do something a bit different. So we thought, well, we know we can change people's lives with the delivery of the Rock Choir experience. Let's open this up to the British public and give them a daily dose of Rock Choir for as long as lockdown lasts. And we So we went live at 3 p.m. every single day in the first lockdown, and we ran for 106 days consecutively. 3 o'clock gave everyone some structure. 3 o'clock, everyone tapped into Facebook and they did some vocal warm-ups with us and then sang a song, one of the rock choir songs. And that was it, probably 15, 20 minutes a day, but we ran it for all that time. And it went into millions of people's households to give them that burst of endorphins, you know, the endocannabinoids that are released from group singing in the brain. We just wanted
to, haven't you? I love the way it just sort of rolls off your tongue. Give me that word again. You say it so well.
Endocannabinoids.
How long did it take you to practice that one?
Well, if you keep spelling it, you learn it. I mean, I still can't get it right. If I write it down, it comes up with a red line. I go, wow, how do you spell this damn word? You know?
I love it. But does it trigger just by saying the word makes you feel good? Because you get to
endocannabinoids.
You can't say it without smiling.
Well, it's the natural. It's like it's the same height apparently as cannabis.
I love the apparently. You at your Lanesborough days.
No, do you know what? I went to this rock and roll college. You know, the course I did was loads of men in leather jackets with guitars and rock music. I never once tried even a cigarette. I've never had even a cigarette, let alone recreational drugs.
Excellent. An excellent message.
I tell you what, liquid morphine is pretty good after a C-section. I must.
Thank you for endorsing that as well. It's
yeah, just let them put it in that syringe.
I love it. But look, you used to be followed. You did this ITV documentary, didn't you? Now, tell me how that came about, and would you do it again?
Well, the ITV documentary came a year after we'd been signed to Universal, because we've got a 4-album record deal with Universal. And I got a call from a production company, B. Ballard, her name, and she approached me and said, I want to pitch to ITV. I think we should be following you. You're the first of its kind in terms of contemporary choir singing. We just need to see what ITV want to do. And ITV agreed. And they followed me and the team for 5 months, from January to May, leading to our first arena performance at Wembley. So they were in my life from 6 in the morning to about midnight almost every day for 5 months, whilst I ran the business, planned and directed the show, and was still dealing with the album deal, the record deal. So we all became very close. The whole crew knew all the songs, all the harmonies, all the routines. They would be dancing behind the cameras when they were filming the rehearsals. And there they were with us at Wembley at this kind of historic moment for rock choir to come together across the country like that at Wembley. And then it aired on ITV after Coronation Street 3 weeks in a row, an hour at a time, and it just went crazy. The attention that brought to us. There was me thinking, right, I'll get through and I'll have a rest after. I'll just have some time to refocus, you know. And it wasn't. It just went crazy. We had hundreds of musicians wanting to come and be part of the team because they were inspired by the ethos and culture of rock choir, and the membership just went through the roof. Plus we were invited to do, you know, the various would we perform at this show and this show. So there's me thinking, oh, you know, the project's over. It just went. We even had musicians arriving who turned out they totally lied on their application form, weren't musicians at all, because they wanted to meet either me or Tom, and they would start screaming. And Tom was standing there going, what is this? What is going on? I don't know. What is this person?
People lying on their forms. It's like a 15-year-old pretending to be 21. That would never happen, would it? Good heavens. It's going to.
But
right. The oxygen of publicity is great. So my question is this: you're natural fodder for something like Netflix, who would just love to follow you around. I also know, because I know a few people who've done these reality programs where they are followed an awful lot, and there are bits that sometimes you don't want to be followed. Would you do it again?
I would do it again, even though my team would remind me that I told them never to let me sign any TV contract ever again. Because at the time I was doing a lot. I was doing it all. And with them there the whole time, it was tough at times. And anyone who's been followed will understand that. But I'm so much wiser now. And looking back at that show, I was very PR-y the whole time. PR-y as I call it, smiley the whole time.
Make up your own words. If the former president of the United States can make up words, I think Caroline can certainly make up a few. That's okay.
But I didn't want anyone to see what I was really going through. And on reflection, in fact, I stayed friends with the crew, and I was talking, it was very recently actually, to the a series producer, and we reflected on it because it's 10 years now since that came out. And I said to her, tell me what you think didn't work, what didn't work in your eyes. And she told me exactly what I was going to say.
What was it?
Well, at the time, I had signed away all editorial control. The brand was in its early days. I didn't want anything to go wrong, but I knew how beneficial a TV show would be from a marketing point of view. So I signed my life away. I signed my life away on the TV show and hoped that they would support the brand and fall in love with the brand and understand it. And when I saw the first episode, the draft, I didn't sleep all night. I got straight up to London the next day and I said, this won't do. This won't do. You're aging us. This isn't the glamorous rock choir that I've created. And they did tweak it a little bit. They were very versatile with me, which was fortunate. And the ITV commissioner was very nice as well. So it worked, but I'd also just had an experience with Decca Records with 2 albums where I hardly had any control, and I had to work very, very hard on that project to make sure rock choir was safe. And I'd really had my fingers burned. And reflecting again, now I'm so much wiser, and I just know, obviously 16 years of rock choir, you pick up a lot. I know I would have done it differently, and I understand their challenge with me and rock choir when we signed. And I also understand now that the ITV show, I should have been more open, because I'm always like this.
No, I get
rock choir.
But also what you know with these TV things, and as you say, it's 10 years on and so on and so forth. It's about the warts and all. It's about the rawness. It's about the jeopardy, if you like. It can't all be success. They have to see the failures that lead to that success. And so often when talking to celebrities about this, they regret it. They regret doing the show because they turn around and say, well, hang about, we have to be somebody different when we're on camera. We don't want to destroy the illusion, because that's what you're creating as a brand. And if you let the cameras in for everything, then it could destroy the illusion.
Well, we have talked about it, because we've talked about whether, if the opportunity came up, would we go for it again? And I just said, well, hopefully we would have a little bit more input, because all the stories that would be created within that documentary would be created from us, and if there was a story that I thought, let's not follow that one, that could lead to some really real trouble, I wouldn't even mention it, that it was going on. So, but I do understand the jeopardy, and I think at the time it almost became like a rock choir advert,
right,
rather than letting people really see behind the scenes at how hard we're working. And I do think it would be quite nice for our Rockies to see the world that goes on, the whirlwind that goes on behind rock choir, that presents this beautiful, immaculate, brilliant package to them.
Absolutely. The appetite for it is huge, Caroline, and I think you can look at that. You've had your weddings, you had babies, you've had productions, every possible production, but you've also had the jeopardy. It's the yin and the yang, if you like. It is that sort of journey, and it's a question of how far people want that intrusion, and that's the thing. And I think you're absolutely right. It's about editorial control of the brand, whilst recognizing the appetite is for jeopardy.
It is, and there have been so many moments where one of us in the team has said, oh, if only the camera was here now. Because, I mean, the BBC Proms in the Park, we opened the show. This is the contemporary music thing in the park, alongside the classical. We opened the show twice with the BBC's concert orchestra.
2018, 2019, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just life. I mean, fantastic. 40,000, red button, Radio 2. I walked on stage, and it was the 2018, so the first time I had done it. And so I was hosting. It was only 20 minutes that we had to do, but it's a long 20 minutes when there's 40,000 in your life. And I had, behind the scenes, totally privately, I had broken 3 teeth. And I have a history.
How did you break your teeth?
From clenching in the night.
Oh no! You suffer stress a lot?
Over the years I've done some damage, and I didn't realise So that was September. The show was in September, and I think I'd broken them in July. It's to do with Rockwire. Something awful had happened, and I'd really been upset. And that night I'd clenched. But by the time we got to the week of the show, with all the PR, the rehearsals at Abbey Road Studios, all the stuff we had to do leading to that show, I was in so much pain, and I needed 3 root canals and 3 crowns. I needed an implant. And he'd managed in the time to do 1 root canal, but the other 2 were still exposed, and I was on serious painkillers. And I just said to him, "You're going to have to stop," because everything was, going to swell, and let me do the show, and then let's carry on after with the treatment. But I ended up doing the Chris Evans breakfast show on so many. I had so many painkillers to be able to smile, and I couldn't drink. I was dehydrated because it hurt to take in it. I couldn't eat very well. And I was shaking because of this. And I did this. "Hi, Chris, great, we got up at 3 a.m, can't wait, breakfast show." Brilliant guy. He came out, and he's so nice to me when I see him. He almost treats me like a friend. I always get a hug and a "How's Rockwire?" And he's always very behind me. And he came out, and anyway, he saw that I was shaking. And this is live on the Radio 2 breakfast show. And he decided, what did he say? Oh, he said, "Oh, you're so nervous to see me. Why are you so nervous? She's shaking everyone." I was thinking, I can't tell everyone I've broken 3 teeth and I'm in agony and all these drugs. And I played along with the fact that I fancied him, because I didn't know what else to say. And then, of course, social media, "Oh, Caroline fancies Chris Evans." Oh. I went straight from there to Abbey Road Studios for the big rehearsal. And then when I walked on stage that morning, the adrenaline had kicked in and the pain just disappeared. And but I was so anxious that I would forget the words, that this was a big deal, that I'd been distracted so much by this. And I walked on stage, and the first song started up with the orchestra, beautiful, and my heel got caught in the staging. And I couldn't get to the mic. And I thought, of all the things, with broken teeth, I now have to get to the mic. And I thought, I'm going to have to take my shoes off, because we're all in these beautiful gowns, red, white, and blue. All of my team, 80 singers behind me, the orchestra, the crowds, the Rockies were there, and my heel, and I couldn't get to the mic. So I launched myself to the mic, and my lovely MD, Stephanie Holliday, who I've mentioned, she'd been my right-hand man the whole way through, because she knew everything that was going on. Always confide in Steph. And she apparently burst into tears in the wings, because she was so anxious herself that I wasn't going to be able to get to that mic. As soon as I started singing, she burst into tears. Anyway, the show was fantastic. And what then happened was I ended up on the biggest high I've ever experienced in my career. And I counted the days, and it lasted for 16 days because of the show, because we nailed it. And it was extraordinary, and it was a huge success. And I was talking to the crowd, and we flash mobbed. 10,000 Rockies turned up, and we flash mobbed the whole audience, and it was just superb. And you wouldn't know, looking back, you wouldn't know I had 3 broken teeth. I was in painkillers. But that's the kind of backstage.
I love all that, and there is that thing about being in front of a large audience. It's like they say, you can't sneeze on stage, because it's true. Apparently, nobody ever sneezes on stage, and if anybody out there has sneezed on stage, do run in, and you can be on. The adrenaline is pumping through you that you lose all sort of idea of pain, because you're there, and also because you can't sneeze. It's the same sort of reaction, apparently. So,
right.
Have you sneezed on stage?
No.
There you go. Well, that's why. You see.
I didn't know that. That's really good.
And we should set the record straight as well. That's what we like to do on this show. It's the truth about. So do you fancy Chris Evans?
Do you know what? I'm really, really fond of him, but I'm totally in love with my husband. So there's no room.
That's the case for the defence, my lord. Absolutely. I had terrible toothache and everything else. That's why I said I fancied him. I was shaking. Nothing to do with that at all. It is.
He's a really. I say worked with him, but had moments with him quite a few times, and he's just got friendlier and nicer every single time I've seen him. And I was there in his studio for his final Radio 2 moment, and he was sobbing. And I gave him a gift at the end, and he just put his arms around me. He was sobbing. And he gets bad press sometimes, but now I know more of him. he's just very supportive and very kind, at least to me and rock choir. So I'm always going to be grateful.
Lovely guy. And so often what the press do, they sort of work backwards from nothing sells. Like it's P.T. Barnum who said, if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. So they love all that bad press and things like that.
Yeah.
No, Chris is genuinely, and he cares a lot about people, and
Yeah.
he would genuinely like to make you feel comfortable and be supportive. What was the gift you gave him?
I gave him a gold star, really big gold star made of jingle bells.
Ah.
He's got twins, hasn't he? And they were there with his partner. They were there in the next studio, and I just it was just to remind him always of rock choir and us being there with him on radio too. Lovely guy, yeah.
Genuinely lovely guy. And you meet a lot of people. I mean, you've been everywhere, haven't you? I mean, apart from this, that, and everything else, you've been on virtually every show because you are compulsive watching.
I think we are the go-to choir for TV, and it's not just because it's the well-known brand, but the team, my events team, are superb at making it very easy for the organizer to not get embroiled in the chaos of rock choir. Because when you say to someone, I'm turning up with 10,000 people, you know, whoever's in charge of that event will be so adamant that we don't turn up with 10,000 people to perform. But because we've got a reputation now after years of going on TV that we will keep all of that strategy and logistics and execution to ourselves, with one person dealing and communicating with, say, the BBC or ITV, or that they've been so impressed that it's been slick. It's military operation in rock choir when it comes to events. So we'll arrive, do this amazing job, go away again without even a piece of litter left, and it's done and dusted.
Other people's litter as well. This is what you want. 10,000 people. I know lots of event organisers who would love you. Picker-uppers.
But you'll find us that, I mean, even like Chris Evans, you know, he runs Carfest, and we're always there performing. We always get involved with Carfest, and I can't even think now. Masses of things, masses of events. We're all, and either very small community events, which are important in that bubble, or regional events, or the national events that come up.
200 events a year, isn't it? I mean, it's a huge number. But
yeah, a couple of thousand events. Yeah. And they're always linked to, well, most of them are linked to charity. So we'll perform and do all that admin work and support for the charity, and then we then draw a crowd, and there's that joyous moment, and then we say this is for Comic Relief or Sport Relief or whatever the local charity.
And then the bigger ones in the hundreds, because obviously you're trying to get everybody together for.
Yes.
But so you must be missing in lockdown. How have you managed to cope? And to give us some hints as to how you personally have coped.
Personally, well, structure was important, but of course I've had the baby, so that totally, I don't know. I've never had a baby before, so my focus was on my two babies, rock choir, and him. And I think structure was really important, and also having things to look forward to. It was even as small as we go for that nice walk that we particularly like and wave at so and so out of their window, and that's it. Getting out and exercise. We live in such a lovely village. We're very lucky. Lots of footpaths that we discovered. But other than that, I mean, I'm still going to bed at 8 o'clock every night because I take over the night shift with Hamilton at 4. So my day starts very early, and in the evening, when of course we couldn't go out and do anything anyway, I was just thinking, well, I'll go to bed and get my sleep if I can. In terms of advice to other people, it was just to stay positive and know that this was going to end, you know, that this is going to end. And I would post all sorts of feel good messages and happy smiley. It's that happy smiley thing again, you know.
Happy smiley through the root canals.
I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, guess what, everyone, broken my flipping teeth again, and look at this. And
I saw your New Year's message, and that was glorious. And it is that sort of positive moments, isn't it? I mean, but also, I mean, you must rule with sort of velvet gloves, if you like, because trying to herd 33,000 people. Make sure the brand is consistent, things like that. Talk to me, for example, about song choices, because the choices that you make, Raw, I talked about earlier with Katy Perry, brilliant song, the wonderful things at Christmas and so on. How do you make those song choices? Annie Lennox, why is it not all Annie Lennox?
Well, actually, ELO, I get accused of bringing too many ELO songs in, because that's another one that I'm a big fan of. The songs are either really upbeat, a song that you would put on the radio and go, oh, it's a driving song, I love this song, or it would have a narrative that was relevant to our Rockies in some way, of hope, inspiration, in the face of adversity we will win, those kind of songs. And a lot of Rockies write to me or the team and suggest songs that they've heard on the radio. In my phone, I've got a note with constant songs that I'm hearing going, how did I miss that? How did I miss this one? Or there's a new one in the charts that one of the guys will say, this is one to listen to, consider this. Or if there's, say, a movie coming up, like when the Queen movie came up, we ran a massive Bohemian Rhapsody workshop across the country in the summer that went down a storm. So we'll link songs to the cultural calendar. But I get accused of bringing too many 80s songs in, so I have to listen to my team.
There's no such thing as too many 80s songs. You've got to have a population. Go on then, what's on your hit list? Give us an exclusive. What's on your hit list? What would you like to do in the next few months?
Well, again, the 80s songs. I don't know. I've got things like I can't even think of the names of the songs. One song I'm about to work on this week, because of course I've handed a lot of this work over, again, textbook, the fun stuff. I've got a creative team rather than me on my own doing the songs. I've got to work on Tragedy. I'm even saying it, Tragedy, the Bee Gees version. I've got, the guys have worked on it and submitted it and said to me, we're having trouble with the song, it doesn't work for choir, we're not convinced. And I've said, okay, give it to me, I'll work on it this Thursday. And I'm already working out how I'm going to make that song work for choir, because some songs you'd think they'd be brilliant, but actually when you unpick the song and look at it, you say, okay, the verse is totally bland, it doesn't go anywhere, the chorus is amazing, but then you're back to this verse, it doesn't go anywhere, what can we do with it? And some songs I've had to abandon because I just can't make it work. But I think that the Tragedy itself, it is seen as a cheesy song, you can't get away from that, but I'm sure everyone will love it once I get to grips with it and we dish out the harmonies and make sure everyone's happy, with their part. That's going to be a big one coming up. But again, now I'm getting to the end of the kind of time with Hamilton in terms of maternity space. I'll be back into that creative team and planning. We usually plan about a year in advance in terms of songs. And I've got a massive list of songs that the Rockies have sent to me. So I need to bring that into them and say.
Well, you probably know I've got a business with RJ Gibb, who's the son of Robin Gibb from the Bee Gees. So yeah. I'll pass on the fact about Tragedy. And Steps did a great version as well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, every time, because we do all sorts of live events when you're allowed to, and people adore Tragedy. So I'd love to hear your version. That would be.
Well, also, it lends itself to creating a lovely routine. But a lot of the members just groan. In fact, when they're watching this, they'll go, oh my God, will she stop doing routines? We lost members over these years because of the routines. And at the beginning, when I ran Rock on my own, I would work out some fantastic visual routines, not crazy stuff. I wouldn't ask people to do somersaults and things like that, but arm movements, stepping together, and it would look fantastic, because who wants to sit for 45 minutes and just stare at a standing choir doing nothing? Yeah. You've got to give the audience something. But the members would say, oh, we look stupid, and I said, well, you've got to give it a chance, because if you believe in it and you learn it, it will look fantastic. I'm not doing it to make you look stupid. Why would I? It's the opposite of that. You're going to look fantastic. So something like Tragedy, I can already.
I can see it. No, I can see. Look, I feel good about it already because I've seen it so many times done with the band.
I'll tell you what. I'm formally inviting you to the NEC, November 2022.
I will come along.
And you will see the entire arena doing Tragedy and the routine.
I love
all in sync.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, you should do another flash mob, because talk about Guinness World Records and things like that. Talk to me about that first flash mob. That must have felt really good as well.
The flash mob was named, the amount of people that the Guinness World is something like the multiple location. multiple locations around the UK singing and dancing. So we set up a massive coordinated event around the country where at 12 midday the song began, and everybody had to do the set routine. And at the end, we had our kind of representatives from Guinness at all these locations reporting in how many people nailed it and was that number enough. And we won that Guinness. I think Guinness were totally put off working with us after that, because there were so many Rockies wanted the certificate, you know, the famous we did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've never spoken to us since, and we've been trying to ring them this whole either their office is closed because of COVID, or they just go, no, that's Rock Choir.
Because I did some of their original digital videos. We with Octopus, that's what we did. We helped them store all the digital videos and send them off to broadcasters around the world. So they are just located up the corner. I'm at Regent's, very close to Broadcasting House, and that's where they used to be, near an Indian restaurant. There's an Indian theme.
Well, maybe you could pop in and just say, "Oi!"
I can knock and say they want another award. And
Rock Choir. Well, what we'd like is the pop video we released at Christmas with our Christmas single had 4,500 singers on it, and we want to know if it's the largest amount of people singing on a Christmas record.
It's got to be. I think, and this is what I love about it, is that all of the staff at Guinness, they've got their own records as well, so they always appear in it. And you can come up with records, whatever it's going to try and do. But that's what Tom George, and I played the video out that time. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But it's one of those things that just gets you going, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I think the Guinness history, we've got 3 records, and the first one was the biggest act to sign a record deal with a record company, and I wasn't expecting that, and all we did was submit the names of all the members singing on the record, and then we got given one without even knowing it was coming, which was the biggest hit act in the UK. We are officially the biggest hit act in the UK, and apparently if you get an album in the top 20 you become a hit act. I didn't know that, but because we had so many thousands of members, we were the biggest. So the title makes us seem like we're the greatest, but no, we're the biggest.
Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about that pregnant pause. You've got to work on the biggest act. Absolutely.
But we've got these 3 lovely Guinness certificates up in the office.
I love
and the third one, the multiple location flash mob, it got stolen. The actual record, not the certificate. The record got stolen by India.
Oh, really?
So I'm saying to my team all the time, right, we need to get this one back. We need to do it again.
There's a theme here, you know, there are Indian restaurants popping up.
Yes.
Stuff. We know what's going on, you know.
But they've taken it from us, so we need to get that back. I'm not having that.
Again, that's the great thing about records, and what I love, it is that school play mentality, is that the more people who get involved with the school play, the more guaranteed sales you're going to have as well, because everyone's going to have to buy a record. Stuff. But the accolades don't just stop there. You yourself, I mean, Gold Badge Award. I've been to that ceremony at the Savoy.
Oh, have you? It's nice.
Very nice. We swim in champagne for like 2 hours. Have the great and good of the industry there. You were there with some wonderful people as well. Tell me about that day.
It was a lovely day, because I felt I was with my people. The songwriters were there. The music industry was there, and it wasn't one of those kind of mainstream business type awards. Not that I'm knocking those, it felt more personal to me. And it was a beautiful lunch. I brought the team with me, paid for them to have a table, but the team was small at the time.
That's the phrase people forget, paid for them to have a table,
because they do they have to pay for the Savoy somehow. And I was able to accept the award and talk directly to the songwriters to thank them and their predecessors, you know, on how amazing these songs were. And without their talent, Rock Choir would never exist. And it was all about the music, and it was really about them. And that, yes, I pull the song apart and rebuild it for choir, but it was their magic and their creativity and talent that allowed us to experience this joy. And they were all, the current music industry top composers were all in that room, and it was lovely.
It's a glorious event. I love that event. I mean, your particular year, the recipients, your fellow recipients, that's an impressive list. Tell me about them.
Well, it was riddled with stars that you were just bumping into when you went to the loo. You know, it was very close kind of experience. But you know, I can't think now. I've been to so many of them, and I've seen so many people.
I'll remind you. So, so George Martin received it as you did. Oh yes, I've forgotten who he is. But you wouldn't have bumped into him in the loo. That's fine. That's
no,
good.
no.
John Williams, come on.
Yes, yes.
Nick Mason also received it the same year as you, and Paul Carrack. I mean, it was a glorious list.
Well, and we all lined up together on the stage, and actually I'd gone over to meet Sir George Martin. I'd introduced myself, and it was before the award ceremony had begun, and he was very private and didn't want to interact with me, and I was left a little bit embarrassed, and kind of went back to my table a bit. Oh, you know, maybe I shouldn't have gone across. And then I ended up standing next to him, holding, you know, the framed certificate right next to him, and he just said, "Well done, good work," and that was it. I thought, okay, that was really embarrassing. And I believe, I don't know if it was now, but when I was giving my speech, I'm convinced that Shakin' Stevens was sitting on the front row.
Yeah,
and it totally threw me, because he was a hero of mine back in the day. And my very first piece of sheet music I'd been given from my parents, the pop music you could buy as a score, was his Christmas song. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Blue Christmas.
Oh, was it? No, it was. I'll tell you what, it's behind me. Can you see that?
I can't quite see what you say.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Absolutely, that was good. And it did great. That's what I'm confusing. All the
yes, that's it. He had the big hit with that one. But I couldn't believe that he was there. I don't know. You know, you end up fascinated about key people, don't you? And it really threw me while I was speaking, because I kept looking down, going, "Is that Shakin' Stevens? Is that Shakin' Stevens?" And then later, about sometime after, Shakin' Stevens came to see me at the Rock Choir office, and I bought my original sheet music, which is, you can see framed, and asked him to sign it, because that was the first piece of pop music I'd ever learnt at the piano. So it was not, and it was just one of those lovely. It was nice. It was lovely to be recognised by my peers, even though my job is quite lonely. Is the wrong word, but I am on my own a lot of the time, working on Rock Choir, and I don't go out. I'm not part of the club where I can meet other musicians. So I felt like I was with my peers on that day, and I was being recognised for work I'd done for so long. So
it is a wonderful event, and a lot of people don't really talk about the gold badge, and you get a little badge which you can wear.
Tiny. Oh my God!
People sort of say, "What is that?" And then you can say, "Oh,
yeah."
But it's very special for those in the industry as well, which is what I love. What about the other accolades? Which other ones are important for you?
Well, it was lovely to receive an honorary doctorate from the London College of Music. That was a surprise. I'd not had any contact with them, and they brought me in, dressed me up with the velvet hat and the gown, and it was at Wembley Stadium, so that was nice to go back to Wembley. And I paraded in with all the other staff and gave a speech and was given the doctorate, and that was just, I've now got a connection with them, which was another nice relationship.
That's why you can say these medical terms so well, because you're a doctor, isn't it? It's
probably. The Freedom of London is a lovely one, because apparently I can get drunk and disorderly in the Mile without getting arrested.
Oh, not really. Oh, I didn't know that, but I remember the bit about the sheep.
Yeah, you can drive your sheep across London Bridge, and they organise that every September for those who want to do it, and no sheep are harmed in that experience. Apparently, bought in by a farm.
You and me both have one of those, so we
should do it together.
Should we do? Well, hang about. Let me just you tell people something. I'll get it. Here we go. Right, you tell them how you can sign up to Rock Choir.
Oh, how to sign up to Rock Choir? Well, you would go to www.rockchoir.com, and you would put in your postcode. It will tell you where your nearest choir location rehearsals are, and you would choose the one that suits you the most. Remember, there are 400 locations around the UK, so there should be one near you. And you would attend your first rehearsal for free, and if you love it, which we hope you will love it, you would then join, hopefully, and pay the rest of the term's fee to take part in a life-changing choral experience. It is £100 for each academic term. There are 3 terms a year, and you get a lot more than your 10 rehearsals, and you'll make huge lifelong friendships and experience something joyous.
And you could even find your future partner, couldn't you?
And you can get married and you can have children.
You can get married and have children. Here we go. Look, there we go. There's your 3
Oh,
minutes.
well done.
Is that the one you have as well?
Yes, mine is just behind. Yes.
Okay,
very nice.
We will do our sheep together.
Let's do the sheep.
We'll do the sheep, and we'll do the gold badge awards as well, which is
why don't we do that?
I love it. I think that'd be great publicity stunt. I love it. This is when we do our Netflix series where we have artistic control. That's the important thing.
Well, we should do that. And do you have contacts at Netflix?
That would be telling. That's easy for you to say, but we shall have our people will speak to your people. We'll make it all happen. You'll be amazed who watches this show.
Well, if Netflix asks me to put the barriers down, stop smiling, and show my broken teeth, I'll do it.
But the secret, sincerity. If you can fake that, you can fake anything. It's got to be.
Oh, God.
This is all you got to do. We love it. It's been absolutely glorious catching up. I mean, it's been a horrible year of highs and lows. I mean, you had, as you talked about, your husband Stuart, and you had the Rockies singing at your wedding. How was that?
It was a lovely moment, and I was very nervous as a bride. I'm sure most brides are, and I had 100 family and friends, and then there were 300 Rockies, and they were all rooting for us, and I only cried at the end when they sang. And my husband said to me, "Why didn't you cry when we actually had our kiss?" and said, "I do." And I said, "I don't know, it's rock choir, sorry." And they all went outside. We did the confetti, and there was the car waiting for us. And then they lined the streets of Farnham as the car went round the one-way system. They were all waving. Shopkeepers came out, and then they all walked up to the castle, Farnham Castle, and we had champagne for all of them ready on the lawn. And then they disappeared as the wedding breakfast began. And it was perfectly executed, and blissful. And there are a lot of Rockies are still in the choir now. I mean, that was back in 2008, a few years after we'd started. But all the little juniors were there, all the little children were there with their mums, witnessing it from the balcony. And
the next generation. I mean, you talked about the glorious production, your best production last year on the hottest day of last year with wonderful little baby Hamilton. It is the next generation now, isn't it, of Rockies must be coming up?
Yeah, we've actually got a new venture called Rock Choir Rock Stars, and we've begun that in online. So we were attracting children and teenagers to take part in learning a current pop song, maybe a Jess Glynne or a song that they really love, and then recording it into a pop video. And we did it twice through the half terms. It gave the parents a break because it allowed the kids to do something in half term, especially when the weather wasn't very good. And that's gone down really well. So we're looking at reintroducing that age group back into rock choir, because the adult age group was so popular that all our attention shifted into that demographic. And it's now that we're more settled that we're going to bring the juniors back in. So that's quite an exciting thing to look forward to. And it gets that generation singing again and leading into the bigger world of rock choir.
We absolutely adore that. And international expansion. I mean, when you take a brand, that's the other thing we talk about. Last time I heard you chatting to people, and that's what I like to do. I just immerse myself in history and just find out every little bit about you. Which is and the world
very impressive.
On you and rock choir now, which is going to be good. But you talked about, in one of the interviews, you talked about Singapore. What's happened to that?
Yeah, Singapore have got a rock school, and the main chap flew over and spoke to us about bringing rock choir there and teaching his team of musicians how to deliver rock choir. And we love the idea. And also, I'd not long come back from Singapore. I'd just been on a holiday. We had a friend there, and we went over privately, but we couldn't quite make it work. We weren't sure where the funds were coming from. We couldn't work. And I said, well, if we're going to fly all that way and do all that work, we need to make it available to the whole of Singapore, not just kids and the parents of kids at this school. So, and it just kind of wound down into nothing in the end. We just couldn't find a way of even one flight, a return flight for 2 of us would have wiped out the funds for the whole term. So, we're looking at Australia and America, Europe, of course, but with everything still difficult, it's almost we've got some time to plan. But I've never wanted to go abroad until I felt the UK was covered.
Right.
I want to make sure my home is that rock choir is accessible to every single community, that if people need us, we're there for them, and then I can go, right, let's now look abroad. And we're not quite there. There's still some gaps if you look at the map.
Oh no,
So once
in the map, well, I'm sure you will fill those as well, which is always a thrill. And as you probably may or may not know, I'm involved with holograms a lot, and there's something we're using those. So we could get a hologram of Caroline. You could travel the world.
Okay.
From the comfort of your thing, but it is about controlling that brand, isn't it? And making sure that makes sense. Well, I will take you up on your invitation. I'm going to come along and watch you perform Tragedy. I might even bring RJ along as well. So
right.
we can have a look at that.
That'd be amazing.
Wouldn't that be cool? So
I mean, if the two of you would come on stage with me and say hello.
I think teach us the gestures. As long as you've got a dance routine for us as well, that'd be fantastic.
Well, I could do that privately with you and then bring you on as a surprise. Although they're all now going to be watching this. So
they're all going to watch this show, but we're going to get you back. When we work out babysitters, this is what I loved about this. You have to do a double backer, because I know how it works with the little ones. You tell me, somebody's going to babysit now, so I'll do a bit of TV, I'll do a bit of the Andrew Eborn show, and then I'll close down a few more Italian restaurants and focus on the Indian one. All of these things can happen in a global domination, which is glorious. But just to finish for today, Caroline, two things. I mean, you started professionally when you were 15, even though you pretended you were 21. What advice would you give to the young 15-year-old Caroline now looking back at your career?
Ooh, I would say two things. I would say, first of all, find some time to be a normal teenager and have friends and experience life at that time, because I was very driven and I filled every waking hour with some sort of music career plan. And the second is, when Sting walks in and sits down and he's the only person in the bar, bloody sing a Sting song and talk to the guy, and don't shrivel into some heap of nervousness, because that's what happened.
When did that happen?
I was actually at the Hyde Park Hotel. You know, it's now Mandarin Oriental. It's opposite Harvey Nicks. I was their resident singer for 2 years, and I would just sit there and play and sing every night. And the bar was empty, and in walked Sting, and I carried on, but I just should have done something. And interesting now, our music production team, Kipper and Donal, they toured with Sting for 7 years, so they know Sting really well. I've never met Sting apart from that night in the bar, but looking back, it's one of those moments where I thought I should have done something. I should have said something. Who knows? But he was there to see Pavarotti in the ballroom, and as soon as he left, I sang my heart out that night to try and get it to carry through. And right at the end of the night, I was out on the front steps opposite Harvey Nicks chatting to a chauffeur. I didn't realise it was Sting's chauffeur. It was a chauffeur. And I got a tap on the shoulder and he said, "Great voice." And he walked down and it was Sting. And he never said anything else to me. And I thought, oh, I should have had my demo tape with me. Oh, my God. Notice I say tape, my cassette. it was back there.
You explain to people what those were, those little pencils you had to
write. Yeah. But it's one of those little things that just niggles at me, that it wasn't true to character.
Remember what you sang?
Oh no, what would I have sung? I would have sung all the big kind of piano vocal hits like Barbra Streisand and Beverly Craven and Alita Adams and all those kind of songs. I would have blasted out at the top of my voice, so it echoed through the marble corridors to Pavarotti's little flat dinner.
All of that, it's got to be good. And finally for today, how would you, Caroline Redman Lusher, like to be remembered?
Ooh, as a warm-hearted, genuine Rocky. Warm-hearted,
genuine Rocky.
I'm a Rocky like all of them. Rocky through my blood. You put me on the spot there. I might have used more elaborate words if I'd had time.
Make one up. You could tell. I'll tell you what. And somebody who could say that thing it does to your brain. What's it called?
Oh, the endocannabinoids.
Come on, Dr. Caroline.
Okay. What about the queen of endocannabinoids?
Oh, come on. Now you're just showing off, you see. This is why they give you all the awards. It's
My only long word.
Caroline, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. What an honour to be asked by you.
And I look forward to welcoming more of your many members. I'll see you. We're all going to do tragedy together. We'll surprise people about that. And
also, we should go to the Lanesborough for a drink.
Should. We go to the lanes. We go to all of them actually. And that's now being turned into a car park. You know, it's going to be an Indian restaurant by the time we get there. So it's going to be good.
Well, the Dorchester is converted into
a car park. It's Caroline's back. We know what it's like. No, we will do. And well, I'll tell you what, Madame Jojo's, which I mentioned earlier, has closed down. A lot of Adele's has gone through restructuring. London has changed a lot, you know.
I've only been up once through lockdown, and I was around the BBC area, and it was deathly quiet. I took photos and posted. I just thought, I can't believe it. It's the proper apocalypse. I mean, it's like the movies. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. Never seen. And my husband came with me, and he'd never, oddly, been to Oxford Street before. He'd never been to Oxford Circus, which I find strange, but he said, oh, this is Oxford Circus. I went, no, this is not Oxford Circus. This is not the classic Oxford Circus. Imagine the place all round and the noise and the colours and the traffic. And there was nothing there. And it was really sad. That was a particularly sad day to see it like that.
It is really sad. And as I say, I live in the heart. So I walk down there virtually every day. And the big stores, people like Debenhams and stuff like that, that's now gone. But we will. And I'll tell you what, history repeats itself. And in 1918, we had the Spanish flu, similar sort of language, but it was followed by the Roaring Twenties, which was a period of great economic growth. It was great for the entertainment business. I reckon that we're in for a period of the next Roaring Twenties, and the Rockies will be at the forefront of that.
They are always. They're so amazing. Our Rockies. They get behind anything if it would change things for the good. They're very reliable, decent lot of people. All 33,000 of them.
Fantastic.
All right.
Caroline, a real delight. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, and we'll stay in touch, shall we?
Definitely. I look forward to it.
Okay. All right. Bye.
So thank you again to Caroline Redman Lusher, the creator and creative director of the fabulous Rock Choir. Do get involved. You can see how exciting, what a brilliant group of people they are, and what regulars they are here on the Andrew Eborn Show. If you'd like to be a guest or have any comments on the guests, then you can write to me at guests@octopustv.com. That's guests@octopustv.com. Don't forget, you can follow me at Andrew Eborn at Octopus TV, and you should subscribe to the Andrew Eborn Show on more platforms than Paddington. But for me, for now, thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.